Today on the Sports Influence podcast, we sit down with Jasper Den Dulk, former Durham University Boat Club president and Henley Royal Regatta winner. From steering one of the UK's biggest student rowing programmes to lifting the Thames Challenge Cup with Thames Rowing Club, Jasper knows what it takes to lead, compete and deliver at the highest level. We'll dive into the mindset behind big races, the lessons he carried into life beyond rowing, and why sometimes stepping away from the sport can be just as defining as winning in it. Stay tuned. This is a story about ambition, leadership and the transition from elite rowing to a whole new chapter.
All right, Jasper, great to have you back on the podcast. Durham University president, winner of Henley in the Thames Challenge. Is that right?
Yeah.
Thames Challenge. So, first of all, we wanted to kind of tap into Durham University presidency. How did you find that?
I mean, it was great. I felt like the Durham programme, when we joined it, had so much potential. Like, we just had the brand new sports centre that was built. We had a good year. We had people like George Bourne, who's now on the national team, and a group of guys who had done really well for those 3 years, and so we're kind of on a upwards trajectory. And then unfortunately COVID ended that first year, but it still had so much raw potential, and so felt like the year group that we had as well, people kind of like Callum Prosser, Jack Roberts, had the potential and willingness to invest loads and loads in the club and kind of put time into doing things like the recruitment, the fundraising, all that kind of stuff. And so I think glad that we all grasped that and then took it from kind of coming, well, I guess we didn't get the opportunity at Bucks in that first year to show what we really could do. But yeah, no, enjoyed it, loved the opportunity.
Yeah, because can you just talk us through kind of firstly how you become president at Durham and kind of the student committee setup, because a lot of unis have a student committee for rowing, but all of them are set up slightly differently. So how was it at Durham and kind of what was the hierarchy in terms of who did what?
So I guess
Briefly,
the Durham,
I know it's a massive
the Durham one I guess maybe slightly different to others because we were a high performance programme funded by British Rowing. We also had the coaches that were employed by the university and Team Durham, and then we had our own student committee as well. So there was a kind of election process. I actually tried to be president in my second year as well, but didn't get it. I remember putting together my manifesto, being really proud of it, and then actually showed my friend outside of rowing. She was like, "All your plans were just a bit of recruitment and some videos. Of course you weren't going to get elected." And then, but even still, I guess I spent that year, I thought a few areas trying to borrow things from other programs. So things like Oxford Brookes were super big on messaging talented juniors and trying to kind of attract them to the program. So a bunch of people, kind of top rowers as juniors, got messages from them. The American programs would do the same, and I thought we maybe didn't do such a great job of recruiting that top talent, and so put in place a role for a recruitment officer that was essentially just messaging juniors, trying to get them, because I think there's a bit of a gap that has opened up where you've got, if you want to do the boat race and you want to go to Oxford and Cambridge, then you pick, you set those as your top choices, and then actually it's much easier now to go to a US uni, and so that pool that Durham would have previously picked from kind of no longer went to uni. So put the recruitment officer position in, social media officer, kind of ramped that up so that again we were building up our online presence, and then I guess we'd run an executive committee, so the captains and the president, treasurer, stuff like that, and then other committee positions as well, so your recruitment officer and social media, and I guess there's lots of lessons learned. I don't think I ran that particularly well. I think I kind of just did my thing, and I didn't really have enough meetings. I didn't bring the team along with me enough, but that's something a lesson I'll take away.
Yeah, so you touched a bit on the election process, but from what I can remember, because we were both at Durham together, it was almost that law theatre. And everyone's sat around the outside, everyone's doing their little speech, but it must be so nerve-wracking doing your speech for everyone, especially if you're second year. Normally it's third year position, isn't it? The president.
Yeah, that was a fun one. So in, I guess my first experience of it was at the end of my first year, where we were doing it online, so you'd record a little video and stuff like that. It wasn't quite the same.
Yeah.
But then in our third year, I think I borrowed something from the way that apparently Cambridge did it, where the president election is kind of a bit of a you do your speech, you leave the room, and there's some kind of character assassination of you, and everyone's kind of
St Andrews is the same.
yeah, and I thought that was like a good way to do it, that everyone can kind of air their like how they think about this person, their character, are they the right person to like for the club. And so built that in, so booked out the lecture theatre. It was quite intense, like a lot of like I think good discussion we had, because the year after me we had 3 people who were running for president. I think we also did it for both of the captains as well, making sure that everyone kind of agreed and had the right people leading it. And so no, that was I guess it was maybe I wouldn't have enjoyed it so much if I was the one running for it, but I quite enjoyed organising it and observing it. Yeah.
No, and that's like brutal, because I was men's captain at St Andrews, and it's the same. Like at St Andrews, every single role you'll do a speech, and then everyone will leave the room, and everyone will just have a chat. And I was just stood outside for like 10 minutes, just walking up and down, being like, "This is just so shit." They're either like loving me or slating me in there, and I don't know which one it is.
You're pacing around.
Yeah, but then I think it is good, because it gives you the chance. It gives everyone the chance to like actually think about it, rather than just chucking a vote in. And
Exactly.
most people, I think a lot of people don't seem to actually care that much, but there are a certain few that are like genuinely think one person's really, really good and ready for it, and then others are just so ready to be swayed. And
and I think I wanted to avoid where people were maybe like just voting their like friends in for stuff. Like who has put together the best manifesto, who's got the best like brightest ideas in this, and and ultimately like really wants to do it, was what the kind of environment I wanted. I don't know if they still do that, actually. I wonder.
I hope so. It's good because everyone's present. Online, again, some majority of people probably won't even do it. Probably won't even vote. It's like, so yeah, good to be present.
Right.
But when you came in, and when I came in the boat club, there was a lot of change around in coaching. We had the famous change of coaches when we got there, not to mention any names. But came as you say, with a few recruitment issues and building the squad back up, because your year was so good. You had obviously yourself, Callum Prosser, Jack Roberts, but you also need to build up the first years and that sort of thing. So when you leave, you've still got a good squad. Yeah. So a big part of your presidency, and a lot of its success, on building up to those 3 eights in Henley, 3 men's eights, was fundraising. So tell us a bit about that fundraising process and the success, and how that went for you, because I know that was a massive change in Durham's kind of trajectory and keeping us at the top.
Yeah, no, it was, I think, partly again looking to other programs and how their sort of equipment was funded. We looked at our competitors, your kind of Edinburgh. I remember I've still got the notebook actually where I wrote down like how many like carbon rigged eights that like each of the different programs had versus us. We had none. I've still got all that stuff, and then thought, we just need to have a huge equipment drive. And what's the kind of thinking? It was myself, Basil, and Max who kind of came together, and we said, what, I think we can use this time in COVID to build something that then we can push out kind of towards the end of that year and try and build some traction. So we were using, the coach at the time was Wade Hall-Craggs. He'd been there for 20 years, so we were using his legend, and using his kind of 20th year as the let's raise some money and build Durham's equipment. Max was handling the sponsorship side, which initially went down, and actually decided that probably wasn't the best route for trying to raise money for the club. And then Basil and I were sort of focused on reaching out to alumni. So it was things like going through the Durham archives, finding every single name that we could that was listed on a photo, looking up their LinkedIn, building a kind of master spreadsheet of like all of these, Durham alum who have gone on to great things. And so then researching what they did while they were at Durham, what they've done after, and we wrote each of them. I think we wrote in total maybe 70 personalised letters to each of them and emails. So we sent them out to everyone's, like to their offices, sent them emails following up, or following up with phone calls as well. Basil was like huge on following up with the phone calls, but we really just tried to make it as personal as possible. Ultimately, if you're expecting people to invest back in you, you need to put a bit of time and effort in, rather than just send out like a bulk email. And so I remember getting like we probably got 10 to 12 responses from that first outreach, which was great. And then Basil was on the phone with them. The first investment that we got was Basil was on the phone. And he started talking about a donation of £50,000. And then all of a sudden, that kind of the next time they spoke turned into £100,000, and we were just in our flat in Durham, like, losing our
like
minds.
It's like a startup, isn't it?
He came, it was. I mean, it was awesome. It was like he came out of his room and he was just like, "I've just had the most amazing phone call." We were just like so happy in our flat that it had come off. And then from that, the next fundraising campaign was kind of they had rowed with a guy who just. Everyone who described him, who he spoke to, just like gentle giant, like 6'6", was just a friends with everyone in the team, and sadly passed away in a car accident. And so the main donor who had donated first said, "I really want a boat to be named after him." And so we then wrote out to all his teammates. We managed to get a group of 7 other guys as well who wanted to donate to. Have a seat in the boat. So that was a campaign where we had their names in each of the seats, and so they were kind of like riding with him at Henley and at Head of the River and stuff like that, which was a kind of awesome campaign off the back of that. And then I think the parents, which was like, I guess I started it, but it was an idea from Ollie actually in the team to like re-engage the parents and get them involved, because I think there's a bit of a gap where your parents are kind of with you when you're rowing as a junior. They're taking you to all the races. They're so invested, and then you suddenly go off to uni and you're just cut off. You might I was quite bad. I just send the occasional text to my parents saying, like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing all right," and not much else. Whereas getting
the live stream link.
Yeah, exactly. Send the link, and your dad's then like shared it on WhatsApp with like 20 people that don't
on
care
Facebook.
at all. Yeah, and then. So getting the parents re-engaged as well, that ended up being a really good thing for fundraising for the club. So yeah, lots of different angles, but ultimately I think total by the end it's maybe 175,000 that we raised, and so that was all like straight into the 8s, oars, like 4s, pair. We bought a whole new set of pairs because we kept turning up to GB trials in a 20-year-old Yanisek that like we were having to like glue together on the side of the river in Boston. So yeah, that's probably one of the proudest things that I think I did at Durham was being part of that.
Yeah, and so that money, obviously, it managed to get the oars, the boats. How much of a difference do you think that made to like the successes of the club?
I think it had a huge impact in terms of then we could start again with rolling through the fleet, cycling through it, using a boat for a few years, selling it for a decent enough price. Whereas I think when at the state that our equipment was at the time, we could barely get like peanuts for the boats that we were trying to sell already. So we could start cycling through it, and I think then we also tried to set out a 5-year plan for how we could continue to raise money. And I think also a big change was then the funding from Team Durham as well. So Team Durham kind of got more involved and helpful with helping us buy the boats. The budgets kind of started, I guess, like coming in our favour, and we had a bit more flexibility with how we could spend that money. So yeah, so I think it was the kind of the first like seed, I guess, for helping that kind of develop. And yeah.
Did you get any recognition from Durham or the boat club or the university for raising that money?
We did. I mean, I had some really interesting other conversations. I was then led some talks to all of the Durham sport presidents about how they might think about raising money. So had which was quite cool. I remember then coming out of that and walking behind a couple of people who were saying, "Well, that's just never going to work for us." Fine, okay. So the cool things like that got onto the Durham Leadership Academy as well, which was cool. And then I guess we had some recognition from the fundraising department. One of the cooler things that happened to Basil. One of the alum who we'd sent a letter to and sent a follow-up email forwarded it on to the Durham fundraising office and said, "See, this is how you do it."
Oh,
just said that.
Right.
He was a big player in tech, like founded his own company, and that was quite a cool experience. Just being like, okay, and so we got a bit of recognition, and it started speaking more to the alumni sort of outreach department in Durham, and that was great for me as well. Kind of helped professionalize some of the other stuff that we were doing.
How do you think Durham is fulfilling its potential at rowing, specifically at Henley? Because I remember when I stopped rowing, 3/8 qualified for Henley men's 8s, which was brilliant. and there's obviously women's Henley Regatta. How do you think Durham are fulfilling their potential? Because I remember looking at old Henley when Durham were winning and things like that. But Durham, from what I've gathered, haven't won Henley in a lot.
Since I think 2004.
2004,
I think.
So, do you think there's a lot more room for Durham to grow as a boat club?
I think so.
So it's so hard to beat Brooks and those big rowing unions.
I think there's definitely space. It's part of it is being there and like doing it before and keeping the momentum of the guys who have done it before. So we can come onto it when we talk about Thames, but I remember that week before Henley, the mindset switch and the mind games that we were trying to play with the other teams. And, you know, of course you kind of focused internally, but you are still trying to play some mind games, put down some quick barrier pieces and stuff like that. And I think you just need a few more runs of getting deep into the Henley week. Whereas I think it was probably our year we made the semi-finals, got knocked out against Washington, and then Brooks went on to smash Washington that year. And I think then the next year it didn't quite happen, and so you need more experience of getting deep each year to kind of build up that muscle.
Yeah, exactly, and there are always these little like dynasties that you have in any sport. It's same in football and all of these things where, for example, Brooks or Leander will have a really good run and do really well, and then sooner or later, people probably won't like me saying it, but sooner or later it probably will come down again and another uni will come up. And it'll just cycle through like that. So I can imagine Durham, Newcastle, whatever, there will be a uni that probably comes back up again and then it will start cycling through. So
because I think Durham, that was we won Bucks Regatta for 10 years on the trot, and then all of a sudden we were just right down coming, sort of like competing with, no shade, but sort of University of Surrey, like in the VL, and it's kind of like that, you know, for someone that was winning absolutely everything to a program that was then like had barely any funding, was mainly like sort of student led. Maybe had I think one Sam Tuck, actually, I think it was like ex-Durham guy, was coaching there, but yeah, competing in the VL against them, you're kind of like, but then hopefully I think we've come back. We then won the VL the year after I left. And then we've been kind of up there in the top three since. So yeah, exactly what you say.
And I think telemetry's had like a massive impact on that, because I know Brooks was one of the first clubs to actually incorporate telemetry in training and racing and everything like that. And like, it's like a cheat code, having telemetry. It's like being able to pace yourself perfectly. The coaches can know exactly who's trying hard, how much power they're putting down in boats and things like that. So for those first few years where maybe it was, I don't know, I probably wasn't rowing at this time, but it was maybe Brooks and a few other crews in the UK that were actually using telemetry. They instantly had that massive advantage that has then obviously had this long-term impact. And then it's just a cycle of getting really good results and then being able to recruit loads more good rowers as well.
Yeah, because everyone wants to join the good programs. I remember, again, when I came out of uni and I was choosing between London or Thames, and London was kind of like on the up, and Thames was having like just sort of won the year before, and I kind of like, you know, just decided actually I want to be at the club that has won it loads before. That was a big thing for me, and so I imagine like everyone going to Brooks just sees them keep winning Henley and go, yeah, I fancy that.
That was the only reason I went as well.
Yeah.
So it's exactly that.
Yeah. So it's all about getting the talent, isn't it, for the future, attracting talent. So let's just zone in a bit more on Thames, and because obviously you went to Thames after Durham, but Thames is different setup to university rowing, because you have to often people work alongside it, so you've got that multitasking side of things, training even earlier in the morning, in the evenings when you're knackered. So just tell us a bit more about that choice to go to Thames, zone into that a little bit more, and then your success and how many years you were there before you won Henley.
Yeah, so I moved to London straight after. I grew up in North London, so I moved there straight after uni, and I didn't initially row. I took a year out. I was knackered from 3 years at Durham, and then it was actually my manager at work. His brother had won Henley twice with Brooks, and said, you know, like, you should give it a go. It feels like you feel like you're missing something, don't you? I was like, yeah, there's an itch. I need to go back and try and win Henley. And I moved in with an old mate from Durham, Callum, in a place in Chiswick. My job was in Richmond. I was kind of like, well, the best rowing clubs are in Putney, and so it's kind of just too convenient to pass up a sort of 20-minute triangle that I was then living in. Chose Thames, and initially like really struggled. My year out of rowing took me really far back. I think I came fourth last on the first test out of like 70 guys.
Erg test?
On the erg test, yeah, I did awfully. She still owes me the coffee, but the fastest woman like nearly beat me. It was like half a split. She's in the GB team now, so like it's okay. So I was really like quite unfit when I turned up. And then, you know, they've got a group of like 70 guys, so they can't put everyone on the water, so I ended up kind of on the like land training group.
But that was a shock for you from going from that first date.
Oh, good. Yeah, well, I think I kind of knew it was going to happen. I knew that I was unfit, but eventually I'd get there. Like I didn't quite expect it. I guess it happened quite quickly actually in the end, that after, like, I think I dropped 6 splits between like my first test and 4 weeks later then my next test, and dropped another 3, and then like all of a sudden
that's the best time in the erging, isn't it?
It was
so
good, yeah.
Massive
huge PBs.
Those first 3 months when you first start rowing is so good.
I was loving it, and like, because I remember the coach kind of coming over and he's like, a lot of people didn't, you know, improve on this one, but you've gone another like 4 splits quicker. And I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm cooking,
I promise you, I'm better than I seem right now.
And then, it was tough initially, and I'd say getting used to that more cutthroat environment as well. Where I remember I was caning at work a bit, so I did maybe 4 weeks of, you wake up 5 a.m, go to train, cycle to work until I think I was leaving work at maybe like 6:30, go to do your next session, and then I was taking my laptop back home, working until probably like midnight, 1 a.m. Did that for about 4 weeks, and then we had some testing and flop the testing. I like things were not going well at work. Yeah, so I was burnt out, and I kind of just like hadn't really realised it. It was I was not doing well, and then so I got dropped from like I think I was in the second 8 at the time to like the fourth 8, and I was a bit of a wimp, and I like phoned up the coach and I was like, listen, coach, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And he was like, you'll be fine, like everyone is having a horrible time. We'd had no racing as well, no opportunities to kind of test ourselves, and he was like, it's November, everyone's pretty sad right now, like you're training like really hard, you're also in a hole at work, so just like ride it out. And then had a really good, actually, there's a race called Remenham, the Remenham Challenge, so it's kind of the clubs that formed, I don't quite know what it is, but the Remenham clubs, so kind of like Thames, Molesey, London, and I was in the fourth 8, and we ended up winning the club category. We were within 10 seconds of our first 8, and I was the stroke in that boat. In 10 seconds of our first 8, 2 or 3 seconds between our second and third 8 as well. And then next session was in the first 8. And so it can just like flip. You get rewarded for really good performances, but you also get like cut for bad ones. And so I think it was definitely tough to get used to that environment initially, but ultimately I think it breeds the best, like the best performances.
Yeah, you spoke a little bit there about how you rang up the coach and was just like, I'm struggling, you know, can I have some advice? I think that's so important in rowing, because everyone goes through those hard times, but to kind of zoom in a bit more on your role models in the rowing world, from Durham into Thames, who have been your role models, whether they've been coaches or other athletes, and how they help you progress?
Had some really good coaches. I think Wade was pretty instrumental for me. I remember.
Do you want to give a bit of an introduction to the listeners about who Wade is? Yeah,
so Wade Hall-Craggs was the coach at Durham for 20 years. He was an Olympic single sculler in the Barcelona '92 Olympics, and he would do funny things. Like I remember on the row machine, he would kind of he'd come up to the fan and he'd like touch the fan and close his eyes. And he'd be like, yep, that's it. Yeah, oh no, not there. And he's just like, I don't know, the like feeling, like all the funny sort of like coaching magic. But I just remember him like sitting me down in, I think it was maybe in pre-season or first couple of weeks, and kind of talking about what I wanted out of rowing, what my goals were. And I kind of said, you know, after like 3 years, I'd like to be kind of maybe going for the kind of under 23 worlds. And that was a bit of a long shot. I'd say as a junior, I did really well up until I was 16, and then just like plateaued and couldn't really break through that. And so said I wanted to go to, and he said, why not do it in your second year? It's like, I don't think I can. He was like, I think you could. I didn't, but it kind of like put that back into me where I was feeling a bit down about like my kind of rowing, where it was going. And then I think that year, in first year, I took 13 seconds off my 2K PB. And yeah, he really like put a bit of belief back into me. And I think a lot of it was like the guys that we were around at Durham as well. Like someone I remember, like Callum Prosser, super motivated, lightweight.
Great captain for
captain for the club for a couple of years, and he came pretty high up in some of the lightweight trials. I think he came second overall one year, and just the dedication that he put into like all his training, but also making sure he's really selfless in making sure that all the guys in the team as
really
well
selfless. I remember.
Were like making sure that everyone was okay, like performing well, had what they needed. So yeah, and then Xander, my last coach at Thames, was just a genius. Like,
it's a completely different coaching style from university coaching to, because obviously you've got all these people that have probably succeeded at university, and then you've got to just kind of build on what they had at university.
Yeah, I think that the club coaching was very different in that I think they knew that you were balancing quite a lot. That it was more, there was maybe a bit more, I don't know, they let you be an adult. Like if you know that like if you've got a really hard day at work, like don't do something stupid and do the like, you don't need to test on that day. They give you a bit more slack. They still expect high results, but they do cut you slack if you need it. And yeah, he was just things. I remember, I think it's always having open communication. You need like trust in the coach, and know that like I remember coming to him after I'd underperformed a bit on a particular, it wasn't a test, but it was just a kind of threshold session, being a bit down about that. He was like, I didn't expect anyone to perform on this one. Like I know we've had a hard week, we're in a really hard block, and so then he just like kind of picks you back up again. Yeah. You just have to have that like open communication, especially when you're working hard as well.
Yeah. So if we go back to Henley, and spoke very briefly earlier about that week of Henley and trying to psych out opponents and things like that. What were the sort of things that your coaches would tell you to do?
Yeah, we'd sit down. It was great. I mean, we'd sit down in the house the night before each race, kind of debrief from like what went well during that race, and then kind of what we wanted to do tomorrow. So I guess the first couple were just about like get out the blocks and see what you can do. And then I think we knew that we probably had the measure of the first couple of crews that we were up against. And then on the Friday, we were early morning, like one of the first races, and we like the telemetry all came off the boats, and it was like, right, put out your best performance to the barrier. Yeah. And we went. It was really well. We went 1 second outside the record in no tailwind, like no stream, and so it was kind of like we were quick. We then beat. So London, who we were going to be up against the next day, they did have different conditions, but I think we beat them by maybe like 5 or 6 seconds to the barrier. And we just knew that we were like, they're going to see that and they're going to be shit scared. Wow. And so there's a couple of bits like that. We just really dialed it. I guess we had our things that we were going to do before Henley even started. We knew that every day this was going to be our warm up. This was what had kind of worked for us in training. It was all about, I think they basically told our cox, we had this like awesome cox, Harry, from New Zealand, and he, in some of the races, it was things like at Dorney and Met where you can get away with a bit more. He used to like point at other crews and go, "I'm coming for you, London." And that was like, I remember being in the 7th seat when he said that, and he was pointing kind of like there. He wasn't pointing there. I was like, I would really rather maybe like there. And ultimately, yeah, we did then like walk through them on that one. We couldn't do that at Henley, but pretty much I think the brief for him, all he said to us was like, row longer, clear head. So like, don't think about like anything else around you. Don't get distracted. Just like super clear head. And it was actually it was a weird feeling. You're really like under pressure, but your mind is just completely like clear, and all you're doing is just delivering like the next stroke and the next stroke, and then rowing longer, and then keep your mind clear. So just focusing on those like principles. So it's like, yeah, gaming ourselves. There's one, our 7-man as well. We were told that like, what was it? I think in the war, when soldiers were under fire, they think about what they were going to have for tea. So it just like distracts you completely from the situation that you're in. And our 7-man actually did that, and then he blacked out his memory from like Remenham onwards. but he does remember thinking about what he was going to have for tea, kind of just before Remenham, when they were like had kind of chased us down a few seats. Yeah,
because you guys were, from what I've heard on the grapevine, were kind of underdogs going into Henley. Is that right? But then at Henley, you just performed unreal.
So, yeah, because was this 2024?
2024. Yeah,
Yeah, because I remember at Marlow,
we had a shocker.
because London had a steamer as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And everyone, to be fair, even I was like, "Fucking hell, London are quick."
Yeah.
But then, so I thought you guys, like, probably to everyone outside that couldn't see the watts and things, they were thinking London are looking good.
Marlow was a tough day. So we'd been really close with them all season. I think like maybe they got the better of us at Remenham. They then beat us on the Bowstead, which is a brutal race. It's essentially the boat race course in reverse, side by side, and they walked us down from Hammersmith Bridge, where we had about a length on them, to then beating us by half a length. And I was in the stroke seat of that boat. That was tough. But we'd been super close all year, and then we had a brutal week before Marlow, and the boat was going. We thought the boat was going okay, but until you test yourself against other competition, you know. And we came off the water on the time trial. I think they'd beaten us by 5 or 6 seconds or something like that, and that was the biggest margin they'd had on us all year. And then everything starts going around in your head, like, oh, like what's happened? Like the peak's not working. Why isn't this working? And I remember Zander, again, this is kind of like his like coaching magic, and it's also like a confidence from him. He kind of sat there. He was like, right, the boat is not doing what I am coaching it to do. So the setup must be completely wrong. And so he then like remeasured everything. We found that our foot plates were like 3 inches off in some places. Some people were 3 inches too far, and so the balance was awful. And then so we went out, we fixed that, and then immediately balance was much better. And so ultimately then got beaten by 11 seconds in the final, and that was sad.
That's got to be bad. That's mentally, that's
really
sad.
Yeah. Like I remember that was the 2 weeks between Marlow and Henley was some of the most like stressful, like low points. So like genuinely, because your whole year is built up to this moment of like you thinking that you're going to win Henley, and then you get beaten by 11 seconds. Like if we beat a crew by probably like 3 seconds, I'm not really thinking about them. I'm like, we've got them in the bag. Like, but to be 11 seconds down on your competitors was awful. So we were like, it was tough to kind of keep the team together in that point, because you start having like bickering with each other and stuff like that.
Test your team.
It does, yeah, it really did. And and then we switched the order around. So moved, got rid of the bucket, bin that off. Yeah. Switched me and the stroke man, so I was then in stroke and he was in 7, and went on the Thames Pangbourne camp, which we do kind of just before Henley, and then it just like took off. Like things just improved. So it's like it's one of those things, you might have all the right people, the right ingredients, have done all of the right training, and just the formula's slightly off, the combination is slightly wrong, and you can still bring out like the best performance.
Yeah. And it's exactly the same at Brooks, because at Brooks, I don't think they finalise the crews until the Tuesday or Wednesday before qualifiers, like basically every year. But it's so crazy how that last couple of weeks from Marlow, how much the boats can change. Because the Temple, in the year I was there, at Marlow didn't do very well. And then by Henley, they were absolutely tanking it.
Yeah.
So it's like, things can change so much in that last 2 weeks. It's crazy. So did you do a lot of changes, or was that the only real change you had?
The biggest one was starting to like lean back more. Like it was sitting back on it, like back in the Durham days as well.
Sit back on it.
Sit back on it.
Oh, I'm all spine on the erg, mate. It's so good.
We just. I remember it was one of the sessions, and Zana, the coach, was just like, just lean back further, make it stupid, make it ridiculous, like hit your back on the rigger kind of session. And then like took that into a burst, and he was like, right, just do that. So I think we were starting to row maybe like 36 degrees round the back, like, and so we were just super long, and then took that into our pace, took that into all our starts. Like we were like pressing everything out. Like black puddles was another thing. So you just like no rip, just be super connected. And that was probably the biggest change. So it was a technical change, and it's kind of a simple one. But that just all of a sudden like just took off.
Yeah, and then I suppose Thames is another club like Brooks, where at Henley when you're getting clapped out of the tents, I bet it's
That was
really
awesome.
good.
Yeah, again, it
on
was like,
finals day, it's so good.
I think some people get like psyched out by it, but I just remember like being like in that race against London, and it was something that actually Callum Betterley, one of the other guys that we rode with, in the years we were at Durham, he had this like, to be fair, it was slightly delusional belief that we could beat Brooks. It's like, yeah, Brooks are beating us by like 20 seconds every day. He was like, I really genuinely believe like we could beat them, and I had that in that year where it was like, we'd lost by 11 seconds at Marlow. I still fully believed, like, no matter how deluded it would look to like friends, people like close to me, it was like, yeah, London are going to completely cook you. But then that clap out, we were just like, right, let's just like enjoy it. Everyone thinks London's going to win. Let's enjoy the clap out. Let's enjoy the time on the water. Lock in when we need to. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. The team support at Thames is awesome.
Yeah. And it always looks like that from the outside as well. It looks like there's such a good environment there, especially when you're there on like, because it was quite good, to be fair, because when I raced, I had a Friday race and a Sunday race, so I had Saturday off.
Yeah.
And I just went to row at like a lunchtime, and I've been there a couple of years before, like spectating from the the boat tent area. And the two clubs that seem to have the best environments when they're clapping people out are Brooks and Thames.
Yeah.
And like Thames just seems like they've got such a close knit environment there.
Yeah, I think because there's been so many people who have had success over the last like particularly like 10 years. I think it was 2015 that Thames Cup 8 that won was the first Thames 8 to win, I think, in maybe like 75 years. And then since then they've won like so many across both the men's and women's events that there's loads of people who are recently really into rowing who have like success that's tied to Thames, and so they always like come back, support, kind of give back to the club. And one of the like my favourite things is watching that video of like us against London. It's pouring with rain, and people who were in, I think, like maybe in the Forley bar, seeing us come past, and you just see a bunch of people like running through stewards the pissing rain to go and like see us on the pontoon. That's like one of when I first like, I hadn't initially spotted that the first, I don't know, 50 times that I watched it back, but like seeing that when I first spotted that, I was like, that is.
Do you watch it back?
Yeah.
Like,
I do my
too.
housemates keep like coming in. I've got it like up on the TV. Like, you're not watching it again, are you? Like, yes.
You know what's funny is that's going to be there forever.
Yeah.
And when you're an old man, you're still going to have that there. It's going to be unreal.
There. I know. Like, so yeah, putting the live stream in since like 2015 has been like huge for Henley. I think like elevating it, and also just for. I don't know, you see all these like crews that you look up to, and you can now watch them in like great detail, the racing, like all that stuff.
Yeah, so when you won Henley, talk us through what happens after that. So there must be some parties, obviously the ceremony. What's like the timeline of stuff that goes on after?
Because were you quite early on in the day?
I think we were 11 o'clock, so we were quite early on.
Because then you've got time to celebrate and have a good day of it after that, because we were like the last race of the day, so we got off the water and I had to run round to the prize bit, and I was like, fuck, I've like missed out on a whole day of celebrating it, because I've been rattled all day, shitting myself. But like so what did you do for that day from after you won?
So after then, I think we got together in the boat tents. Like, you know, you're chatting with like your family and your friends who have come out, and that was epic. And then like got together again, watched the live stream, a couple of bottles of champagne, and just kind of like celebrating it. Get back into, I guess I think we went back to the house quickly, got into like blazers and everything like that. Came back down, kind of into stewards. Our cocks, I think that happens to every single cocks. It's just that they've been like sort of cutting weight for Henley, and then suddenly have their like first beer in 3 months.
No,
so
it's game
drunk.
Over.
And so we just and then like, I think bumped into a bunch of the guys that we'd just beaten, which had the potential to be a bit awkward, but no, it was good fun. So then just hang out in stewards, have the prize giving, straight into Leander, which is that kind of like quite, I guess, typical like Sunday, if you've won, you go into Leander, and then a bunch of people like Levin had also won, a friend of ours from Durham, and then into the Angel. And it was also my birthday that day as well.
Oh.
So it was like
So it's the best time of your life.
Yeah, like how can
Best day of your life.
I beat that?
You can't beat that.
I can't
day.
ever.
Your first child being born, it doesn't compare. doesn't compare at all.
Yeah. And no, because I remember I did feel a bit bad. Like as we came over the line, my crew started singing "Happy Birthday" for me. And so there's a bunch of Dutch blokes in the other right, like head in their hands, and they're singing "Happy Birthday." In
Wow.
But it was epic. Like I can't top that ever.
So you've just won Henley. Might be the week after, 2 weeks after. What's the thought process for carrying on rowing? Like what do you do after that? Because we talked a lot about on other podcasts on when you've done something so big, the come down, or do you finish then? Do you carry on? Or with age, you get a certain age and it's like, do you focus on your work, or do you... What was the thought process for you after winning? Because that's the pinnacle. That's almost as big as the Olympics is big, but winning Henley is also big.
Yeah, I think because for me, winning Henley was the best that I think I could realistically have achieved. So for me, that was like the only goal. And I think in that year, just trying to balance it with work, I'd put so much aside for specifically to win Henley. And so, things like holidays, I think the only holiday I took was Christmas, when there's the club break. Didn't really miss. I didn't miss any sessions, I don't think, other than for like illness or injury, basically. And so that was just such a big release that I then thought, you know what, like even if we lost, I didn't know if I could do another season. I was just so then winning it and doing that, I was like, okay, I think I came back for the first session of the season, and I was like, no more thanks. I definitely did then want to kind of dial up like work again, because I hadn't been able to put as much into that as I wanted while I was rowing, and then came back out, and I think I'd sort of, it's probably one of the like catalysts for me starting to think of looking for something different in my job, was coming out of Henley, wanting to reinvest and thinking, actually, is the best place for me to build my career now at my current company. And so that was the thought process after, and ultimately decided that I need to find something different that's not rowing.
Yeah, so this podcast is obviously called The Sports Influence. So what major skills from that period of Durham into Thames have you picked up and are now using that within your work? Because obviously you worked in a startup for a long time. So many skills you must have used there, which is kind of different to what you would use in a big company. So I bet there's a lot more accountability, things like that. So how have you found that, and the skills you've used or transferred from rowing that not many people would have?
I think it's being a self-starter is so important. You see that in a lot of job descriptions, especially in startups, is if you see something that you think could have a big impact on the business, just go out and do it. And so that was one of the big things, that if I saw in my company now a process that I thought could be done better or more efficiently, I'd just ask for permission, say I think this would have this impact. You don't necessarily always need a fully thought out, costed out like pitch for them. You're just like, I think this would save these guys a load of time. And often then, if you're in a good business, they'll kind of empower you to go and do that and say, okay, can I help you? Maybe there'll be some funding like available for you if you wanted to do that. So I'd say being a self-starter, like hard work as well, I think is something that like rowers can capitalize on, in that like rowing training is seven days a week, and like that's one of the things that in a startup you're kind of, maybe there's an expectation that you might like work a couple of weekends, like work late hours, stuff like that. And I think that's something that people aren't maybe accustomed to if they've just done like a uni degree and not had that like other aspect of sport. And so that's something that you can dial up. But also, I mean, I don't necessarily recognise it, but it's something that my manager has said, like, I'm more focused when I do have sport going on outside of work. So dialing it up too much is the kind of runs the risk. I had some really great mentors at my company. So Chris Fletcher, he was our head of legal, and he'd done some ridiculously quick marathon times. I think he was kind of like in and around like the 2 hours 30 while he was a corporate lawyer. And same like did like full Ironmans and stuff like that. And he was saying, like, if you treat work 100% like you treated rowing, you're not going to last like particularly long. There are obviously people who can do it, but just like have a bit of kind of have a bit of balance. It's not something that I've found, and he was like, I've also, he said he's never found it either, but being like a bit conscious of that. But yeah, like all sorts, discipline as well, like, and a team mindset. I think a lot of people in the corporate world are kind of maybe like jaded a bit by like what they have done, how things have been, and their way of doing things. But ultimately, there are decisions that I've followed that I don't think are the right ones, but the team is going to follow it, and so that's an important thing as well. Is that doing things for the good of the company, whether you like agree with some of them or not, you can pitch a better idea. But ultimately, if you make a decision to go for something, like go for it, and that's something that I think has happened in all the programs we've been in. You might not necessarily agree with a certain training session, but you crack on with it because it's what the coach says is going to make you better. And I think that kind of mindset is also an important thing.
Yeah, because I watched a video on Jeff Bezos and then Amazon, how they he won't do necessarily what he wants to do. He understands the difference between someone else, a member, even a junior member of a team, says something and then other people agree with it, don't agree with the way Jeff wants to do it. He'll then just put everything everything he's got into that person's idea, even though he thinks it's wrong, because he knows that his mindset isn't necessarily the right one. So it's such an important thing, that teamwork and stuff like that. Yeah. So one of the questions, Jasper, that we always ask on the podcast is, what is the hardest session you've ever done in rowing? One you remember that's the bane to you for this day. Durham, Thames, because I know we had some hard ones in Durham, but is there one that sticks out to you as one you absolutely hated, thought of throughout weeks? You know what I mean?
Dreaded it. I think there was one that we did in the build-up to Henley that was pretty brutal. It was on the bike as well. So, I did it on the bike. You could did it on the erg, but it was 1 minute on, 1 minute off, times 6, times 3. And that was the thing that...
the times 3 at the end. Got a brackets in there.
That was then the thing that cooked us before Marlow was doing that twice in 1 week. It was like I had nothing left. Like the watts on the telemetry after Marlow were like awful.
And this is kind of unrelated, but did you get to see your watts while you were at Thames?
No, I didn't. I think we could have if we wanted, but they actually stopped showing us because I think they felt that we performed better when we didn't see them. So there was one time, it was actually head of the river. I had a shocker, and I had a screen in front of me. I could just see myself blowing horribly, and from then on I never asked to see my watts again. I didn't want to know. As long as if I was still in the boat, then I presumed that I was doing
also, did you not have screens when you were...
No, it was kind of selective that if you wanted one, you could ask for one. Okay. I think no one in our boat did. I think our curves were relatively well aligned, and so we didn't need no one in particular needed one. I think a couple of people would have liked one, but it was the coach's decision at the end to say we're not telling them their watts. We'll tell them if they do a PB. But we didn't.
That's interesting because when we spoke to Gus, he was saying at Cambridge they have a ranking of people's watts after a piece, but then at Brooks everyone will have a screen, but you can never go up. You wouldn't go up and ask to see your watts. You'll never actually see the download or whatever it is to see your curve or anything like that. You just know. You'd have a shit one if you'd moved down a boat. Yeah. And you had a stormer if you went up 1 or 2. So that's just how it was. But from what I've heard, Thames is somewhat similar.
Yeah, I think it was. There's a decent amount of. There's a good amount of transparency. I think if it is very much down to the coaches and what they think that will benefit you. But I could always sit down with a coach and ask what my curve looked like and how many watts I was doing. And I think it was probably up until the boats were then set, probably in March. Or actually no, they wouldn't be set in March. They were set in kind of May after camp. That we could ask.
So that seems like a hard session, but we'll probably give it a go.
I don't know.
No, the bike's good.
The bike's good. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit different.
It's especially if you've not been on the bike much. I feel getting your bike fitness back is can be quite quick, but if you haven't done it in a while, then it's hell.
It's not.
Your legs are going to be jelly.
So every year, hundreds, thousands of people go into the uni programs first time as freshers. What is some advice you'd give to them to move through in the rowing scene, uni rowing scene? Obviously, you immersed yourself into the club program to get to president, and you put so much into fundraising. What advice would you give people in the uni rowing programs?
I think it'd be to build a good team of people around you so that you can all kind of work with each other to build. I think there was a few different scenarios that someone pitched to me of the best ways to improve in rowing. Kind of one was to be surrounded by people who are, or have a decent number of people who are so much better than everyone else that they bring the standard up. And I think there were some people in my first year that were so good, but they were almost, I felt untouchable. Some of the scores that George Bourne was doing in our first year was blow your mind. And then the other way is kind of building a team of people who are closely competitive with each other, and they can kind of fight it out, and then that way everyone you kind of elevate the level up. And so if you're in maybe a smaller program, but you've got a group of like-minded guys who are willing to kind of push things on a bit and maybe encourage the rest of the group, because I think if there's one person who's kind of shouting on a hill that we need to do this and this better, it doesn't really work. You need to take the group with you. So I'd say, whether you're in a smaller program or you want to improve, and maybe you're in a bigger program, but there's a group of people around you, the guys that I was on land camp with, a few of us ended up then at Thames, then progressed into some of the top boats. Bring other people with you. It makes the journey easier as well.
Yeah, and specifically for that president role, what is some advice you'd give there? Because fundraising was so successful for you. Would you just say being confident and just putting the question out there to alumni and things like that?
Yeah, I think so. Confidence was a big part of it. I always tried to focus on the areas that I thought would have the highest impact. So one reason that we didn't choose events, for instance, as a sort of method of fundraising is that you might spend a load of effort organising this event, and you may then raise a bit of money from it, but ultimately a big donation from an alum and building a relationship where they will continue to donate is something that I think will kind of, it's a better use of your time. So kind of directing yourself towards things that are going to be the best use of your time is important, especially when you maybe don't have much time at uni if you're doing an intense course and you're trying to balance rowing with it as well. And then in terms of the kind of the characteristics, I guess you kind of building up a bit of a muscle in natural leadership, how you conduct yourself around the team. I think trying to set a good example was something that I'd always try and set. So for instance, in my third year, I was maybe a bit boring, didn't go out much, but I was ultimately I wanted to build a really high performing team, and I thought that was probably a team that treated their recovery seriously, took their degree seriously.
Leading by example then?
Yeah, leading by example I think is super important for anyone who's looking to progress into a kind of committee or exec role. I'd have no confidence kind of directing someone, telling them to do something that I wouldn't be willing to do myself. Yeah. And I think that's what I feel is a characteristic of probably good leadership.
Okay. No, so that's really interesting. And then before we kind of wrap it up, we'll just do some quick fire questions for you. Okay. Your three most kind of influential sporting people, any sport, who are they?
I'm going to say Cal Prosser.
Okay, right. Cal Prosser's an ex-rower at Durham who is a extremely good lightweight and a great captain for Durham Uni.
Shit, I don't even know. I don't think.
Well, you got so many. You got all of any sport: cricket, rugby, golf, basketball.
Why don't we reword that question to just your GOAT of sport in general? For me, it's Phelps. Would be mine.
I said Tiger Woods. For me, a great sports person has to go through something so tough, come out of it, and then rebuild. Almost like Tyson Fury, another one of mine, where he went to that lowest of the low and still managed to bring it back to the top of the top.
Yeah, I'd say actually, because I was a swimmer before I was a rower, so actually Michael Phelps would probably be the one that I looked up to when I was really young.
Okay, next question. Hardest sport?
Hardest sport?
You do Ironmans now, so surely you've had a taste of a few different ones.
I did a pathetic attempt and a half. Hardest sport is... I think it could be triathlons. I had a horrible time, terrible time, and maybe someone who does consistently does Ironmans is crazy that, like, just to put it into perspective, you're kind of, you're 4 kilometres swim, it's longer than most people will like swim like ever consistently, and then cycle from London to Brighton and back, and then run a marathon is nuts. Like, I think doing that consistently and getting to some of the times, like, sub 8 hours is the fastest ever one, is ridiculous.
Sub 8 hours?
I think it was, to be fair, I think he might have then had like a peloton, like it wasn't official, like the kind of Ineos, like sub 2 project version of an Ironman.
No, that's good.
We can finish that. It's fine.
If you could do one milestone like fitness challenge and you could tick one off, what would it be? But I suppose Ironman's probably very far up there.
Yeah, I think having done the half, I wouldn't do a full. It's just like, basically did 3 weeks of training for my half.
Really? Is that it?
Pretty much. Like, I was doing some runs, and then I went for did a 50k loop around Richmond Park with some of these guys, and then a 10k run, and I had the worst time ever. That 10k run was harder than Henley. Like, mentally, I was using self-talk, visualization, like everything that your sports psychologist would pull out of the hat. And that was 3 weeks before, and I was like, okay, I'm going to be really in trouble if I need to do double of both of those distances for this. No, 1 mile. It was a mile. Which milestone I want to tick off? Possibly an ultra marathon. Like, that would be something that I just feel like it's like all mental. Like, you kind of know your body can like get you through it as long as you've done like enough of the running training and you're kind of tolerant, and the rest of it. Like, one of the guys that was at Thames did I can't remember how long it was, but I think he was running for something like 26 hours or something like that, and he was like hallucinating by the end of it. But it's just, that is really tough.
Yeah.
And I think
feel
it would be like
that sense of satisfaction you get after finishing that would be like unreal. Like,
kind
have
of
you heard of
mental.
those backyard ultras?
Yes, yeah.
And that sort of thing. Have you heard of that? It's like, I think it's like 4 miles every hour for as long as you can do it, basically.
Right, well.
Yeah.
And people end up doing like 100k or more over the space of like 24, 25 hours.
Yeah. And you're just like running, literally around your back
One
garden.
loop,
like one loop, consistently, again and again and again.
I'm not doing that.
No, that would be so good. That would be such a good video.
Hardest session I've ever done.
It'd be a boring one for the viewers. Run around the garden 100 times.
Do a time lapse.
Yeah, true. Right, I think that's a good place to leave it.
Nice.
Thanks for coming on, mate.
Thanks very much for having me.
Thanks for coming on the podcast.
It's been good fun.